welcome to the next episode of Design Under Influence. We have an awesome guest today, but first let me introduce my co-host, Boris Rappaport. Boris, say hey.
Hi, everybody.
Yep, not a man of many words, yet a big brain, a lot of talent, and we'll sort of hopefully poke at some of that today. And there's a good duo here. Wanted to introduce our topic today and then introduce our guest. Okay, so we're gonna just go wide. We're gonna just travel out maybe in the future a little bit, elevate, look at things a little bit globally at the industry, what's happening, things like machine learning, things like innovation, things like what happens around the corner 2 years from now, and our guests will help us kind of bring it down to today and how to have your firm be firmly planted in this innovation cycle and be successful, connected to your mission and be successful in your day-to-day business, be happy, and so on. So let me introduce my guest today. Her name is Mercedes. Super cool name. She's a co-founder of a company called Slantis. And then Mercedes, feel free to just pop in and correct me, but you basically, Slantis making technology happen for architecture firms. Do you want to just say hello and tell us a little bit about your company and your work?
Yeah, sure. Hi, everyone. Thanks, Alex and Boris. It's great to be here. So Slantis makes technology happen for architecture firms. Mainly that ranges from BIM consultancy to BIM automation to just like improving your innovation and digital practice in general.
Gotcha. Did you get your start as an architect and you sort of flowed into the tech side of things? How did that transition happen?
Yeah, so I'm a licensed architect and I transitioned into technology. I kind of took a break from architecture because I was bored and just got in touch with many technology initiatives, not only on the programming side, but also like on the electronic side, which is a big passion. So I really felt the architecture industry was lacking a lot of things that were happening in the technology industry. And Slantis is kind of builds up on that.
So do you feel the architecture industry today is all caught up on the latest technology?
No. Do you?
And if they were, things might have been a little bit different, but what are some of the big gaps? I mean, you just attended, well, maybe talk to us about this Autodesk conference you just attended and what sort of your takeaways there, because there's a lot of futurescaping happens in these larger, leading software companies who think 5-10 years from now, right? That's, their roadmaps are pretty long and they have a lot of cash to implement those and do a lot of R&D. So what have you gained out of that experience?
Autodesk University was great, like mainly the fact to be able to see people again in person. I think that was a huge component of attending AU this year. Then just like going back to the swing of conferences and see what's out there in person was amazing. Like there's a lot of new companies and new technologies. Like I noticed there was a big shift into manufacturing and coding, like not like it's kind of getting more serious on that sense. So that's good. Also like Autodesk acquire Pacemaker, like an AI powered I would say generator. So like those topics still remain in the agenda, and there's many great companies out there, just like Hyper, TestFit, who has been kind of pushing things very steadily. But I still feel like we're talking about the same things, and there's not much more progress in terms of adoption. I really feel like the technologies and sometimes the products and the power of the technologies are out there. But what's missing is just like the change of mindset from our industry as a whole in order to be able to adapt and to include those into our current workflow.
Let me ask you a question. I guess that's, I really want to know. So the big companies, are too slow and too, I guess, bureaucratic or too, stringent. I guess too packed. There's too many people, too many things happening. They're too busy to implement. Well, not say too busy. They're too slow to implement technology. The smaller companies are more nimble, but they're running with their heads cut off, right? Like, because they're super busy, because they're just trying to do, because every person wears multiple hats. How do you address this? I mean, how does even tech gets implemented in business? Like, I'm having a hard time understanding. The big ones are too slow. The small ones are too busy.
Yeah. Well, there's always two sides of the coin. I mean, maybe the big ones have the resources and the smallest don't. Like, that's what usually people think. Like, you tend to label situation.
Mm-hmm.
But like, the good thing is, like, properly understood, technology is any new way of improving something or in a new way on doing a thing. So it doesn't need to be bounded to computers necessarily. So like, that's being super positive about the fact that, like, you can just improve things without even the use of computer. It just takes the time to recognize what you can improve and what's not working, and just like taking a step towards improving it. So that's kind of a, just like hopeful message. Then like, there's many types of, there's like, we can break down innovation into two big groups. Like, there's the evolutionary innovation, which is like based on pinch points, like it feds from incremental steps. And then there's the revolutionary innovation, like in which you really change something for good, or like worldwide, or like you need to be on the bigger picture side and looking into the future. So I think people's brain, our brain, tend to go to the revolutionary innovation side right away, and forget about that every incremental step you take towards a better and more efficient way of doing things is a kind of innovation. So it's pretty, I'm starting with a pretty hopeful message to get to then get down into the more challenging things. And so, like, in order to answer your question, like, how do you tackle that? Well, you just first need to want to tackle it, like whether if it's on your belief or your company belief or personal belief, like you have to choose to tackle it. So that's the first thing. You have to acknowledge that you wanna take a step towards the future, or towards innovation, or towards being more efficient, or just like towards being a more attractive profession for architects, which is a really big topic right now. Like, many architects, there's an exodus of architect professionals, whether because they're going to the software realm, or just like taking a step aside, as I did at some point, because like they're not the work, or are not challenging. They're finding challenging, problems to solve. So like, again, like, the first thing is to acknowledge that you want to do something in order to improve what your current situation is. And then the second one is spotting a problem. It doesn't have to be the right problem, but just like spotting a problem and see what can be a solution to that problem, whether if it involves a software, a computer, or just the soft side of organizing things, and having innovation on your company leadership plate.
Gotcha. So how do you know as a company that you're falling behind?
You are.
So I guess your answer is
super mean. That was super mean.
if you have to ask that question, you are. Right?
Well, I mean, you're asking very complex questions, Alice. I don't know them all. But no, I can, like, you shouldn't be thinking about if you're falling behind or not. Like, again, I think that's not the question you want to be asking yourself. The question is like, how do I do? What do I do? Or how do I keep up to speed? And like it's a very different question. And since you mentioned AU at the beginning, I went to a leadership session at AU, and we did like a brainstorming exercise on what were our problems and our challenges and what was difficult to address and why. And one thing that get repeated over and over again, so there were post-its all over AU with this. It was like too many options. And I feel that kind of brings me back to my point of defining the problem, because like there is a lot of options and there is a lot of advances, and people kind of tend to go to the safest and most known place, whether if that is, I don't know, Autodesk software or just like your company and just like not getting sideways. But I think it's because like they're looking at the options and not at the problems. Because if you're able to frame a specific problem, it's easier to find a simpler option.
That is an excellent point.
Boris agrees with me.
That is an excellent point, because a lot of times what we see, and even on our side, but in general, right, somebody finds a tool and then tries to make it fit into their workflow, as opposed to first identifying, right? Like we're trying to coach people that we work with is identify what you're trying to solve, right? Find the requirements, and then we can look at the tools and see if they fit that requirements. Usually it's backwards.
Right. Yeah.
I think, this is from personal experience running multiple businesses, implementing systems. And by the way, I was very selfish. My question, how do you know you're falling behind, was very selfish. Like I'm a business owner, and I know, and Boris, both and I, business owners, we understand, like, are we innovating at the pace? I guess the question was like, are we innovating at the sustainable pace that will put us ahead as an organization, or should we do more, or should we take the step back? Because like, let me give you an example. We hired an automation engineer, and we're 10 people person company. Like, and this is investment into definitely innovation and stepping up our game and making sure we can deliver product very cost effectively for our customers. But is it the right time? Is it too much, too fast?
If you ask me, there is no wrong time, because I think, as Mercedes said, you can always find process, right? It's not just an innovation conversation around technology. It's innovating around the processes. And You and I both know that, right? Okay. Like you can always find incremental improvements in your workflows and your processes, whether you use technology or you just document things better so that people can follow it better and be more efficient that way.
Yeah, I'm a huge fan of documenting too, Boris. And then
where you go? I mean, wherever you want to go, Mercedes, go, because I have a next hard question coming up.
Yeah, no. So in preparation for your hard question, so I just like want to bring up the point that like people tend to put the challenge into technology or the amount of options or the difficulty to spend time learning a new way of doing things. But that just drifts away the problem from adoption and the openness we have towards that. So there really is a soft side of technology. Again, that you can buy a super expensive piece of software, but then if you don't implement it or use it up to its full potential, it's not that you're innovating. It's not a checkbox. It's not that you're staying up to speed. So there's really that too. And then I read a tweet a couple of days or weeks ago, which was like from technology company in the AEC industry. I don't recall exactly which one, but it was like, our biggest competitor is apathy. And it's pretty incendiary, but I completely agree with it.
I'm going to scrap my hard question and I'm going to go with flow here. but I'm going to poke a little bit. Softer side of tech. You mentioned that pre-show. I love it. I didn't know what that means. Now I understand. It's basically the application. Like, what is it actually going to be able to solve for you, and how to get to that solution, versus just looking at features and ticking boxes during the selection process. Okay, I get that. But how do you implement software properly? Can you give us some advice? What have you seen? You're working in a tech company. You've seen a lot of architects probably fail implementation, probably very, very successful and somewhere in between.
Yeah. I mean, if I have to highlight the process, it's just identify the problem. That can take a bunch of time, just like identify the problem. Be sure that's aligned to like your principle. Like that's a huge part of it too. Like if it's not aligned with your principles, no matter how identified you have the problem, if your company does not believe in making things different and improving our industry for the better, I'm sorry to tell you, it's not going to happen. You got to be open to it. So you just like got to identify the problem, then be open to it and be sure that everybody's on the same boat in terms of beliefs. And then like start fast, like avoid over planning.
Start fast. Ooh, I like that. I like to unpack that a little bit.
Is that start fast and fail fast?
I like that. And don't make stuff up.
I like the fail fast part. No, I mean, like you gotta start fast, because after that comes commitment and diligence. So like once you start, if you commit and like diligently approach whatever you're trying to approach, I mean, you're gonna get there, and certainly you're gonna find what needs to be improved. So that's how our teams work. Like we just like spot a problem, align on what we believe in and what we believe that's a problem. Like some people see a problem when others don't. We align on that. We start, and then we rapidly adapt to changing circumstances.
I love it. Identify the problem. Be sure it aligns with your principles. Start fast, and then from there, you break the glass. You're on the other side. It is what it is. You got to run, and then from there comes commitment and diligence. That's pretty good. It's very good.
Thanks.
Did you come out there on the fly, or did you prep that?
I did. No, I'm surprised. We should get together more often.
Oh, well, that's why I love doing these things. A lot of interesting. Like I said, a lot of this podcast business is very selfish. You don't get to talk this on these kind of focused subject with people of high interest in interesting people and stuff like that. So anyway, let's keep flowing with this. I think that's fantastic. So we've sort of already gave a lot of actionable advice on how to kind of structure your thinking around, make sure innovation is on the agenda. Is that the word the statement you used?
Yeah.
And how to do it. I think we've talked about that pretty well, but I also want to kind of pivot us out into machine learning. You've been experimenting a lot, and I wanted you to kind of give us a little bit of your understanding on it and where you think we're going, and give us all the interesting stuff.
Should we start with, just kind of to narrow it down a little bit, should we start with what is machine learning in your understanding, Mercedes?
Yeah, I mean, we can start with what is machine learning. Like, I'm not an expert in the field, but I know like where our industry is at and when like the technology industry is at, and I think we should start to just like be taking a deeper look into it, because it will change us. Because it will change our industry. Yeah, like just to answer your question, like the field of machine learning, it's, I don't know how, like it's like machine learning is a branch of AI and computer science, and its focus is on data and algorithm. So what they basically do is like they replicate the neuron system we humans have with machines. But like more specifically, like analytical AI or traditional AI is the kind of AI that analyze a bunch of data and find patterns much better than we humans do. Like humans are good at analyzing things, but machines are definitely better. And the reason why I'm saying this should be in the agenda is because like up to now, machine has no chance of competing with humans at creative work. Because like again, like what was developed was more on the side of analyzing big amounts of data rather than generating new amounts of data, which is what the creation process is like, and that's what what we are good at creating. So like again, like until recently, machines were not in the agenda or were not in the agenda for competing with humans at creative works or generating new stuff. But machines are starting to get good at that. That branch is called generative AI, and machines are generating like new things and pretty beautiful ones. So it really puts all the creative cells in a position in which they need to rethink if they want to adapt or not, because I feel there's a new space being created and there's a new opportunity being created, and if we don't take it, somebody else will. So like as architects, as creators, we gotta think if we're going to be evaluating or be open to taking that spot. But then just like to be more specific about like what tools have people there's out there in terms of generative AI. You probably heard of DALL-E or Imagine. There's also Midjourney. So those are AI tools that generate images based from text prompts. So let's say you put like red apple, and it will generate an image of a red apple, or just like red apple with puppy on a, I don't know, swing. And it will start generating images or variation of those images based on that prompt. So there's many people around the industry that have been playing around with, for example, Midjourney, generating buildings or crazy buildings up from text prompts, which look pretty nice. It's not that that is going to be replacing what architects do. And again, like when you start to get many images that look a certain way, it certainly loses its value. So I definitely see that. But at least it's very tangible, the power that AI and machine learning has nowadays, and the power that it has within our industry specifically. There's a really good article, a really good edition of AEC magazine. And there's an article by Martin Day, that's AI Becoming Tsunami, that gives like a big overview of where's AI and how does it touch our industry.
Gotcha. Very interesting. Go ahead, Boris.
Sorry, Alex. I think we need to summarize this a little bit, just to the point of where we started from and where we're at now in terms of AI and machine learning, right? So the initial implementation, let's call it, as Mercedes said, is data analytics, right? So they were able to analyze huge piles of data and find any anomalies. So that's used still, I mean, right now that's used a lot for like analyzing X-ray images, for example, and finding like cancer, or, you know, analyzing business data and finding anomalies there, right? But this next generation of AI is now able to create. So it gathered all that data, and now based on those analysis, it can say, okay, I know what this looks like. So I know what a house with, 3 bedrooms now looks like, and we can tell it, hey, can you draw me a house with 3 bedrooms? And it's going to go and draw a house with 3 bedrooms. So I think that's the exciting part. And it's fun. You mentioned all these multiple tools. Like I've seen a comparison of people trying to draw the same thing with all these different tools, and completely different sets of images emerge. Some have different thematics. Like some are more gothic, some are more cheery. Like it's weird. And yeah. interesting because that's, I guess, those are the images that I was learning those ways.
Yeah. I mean, like I've been just playing around for fun, but what I see, it's definitely like the tools and the power of tools out there. That there's also, I've seen a couple of time ago a tool that turns images into a 3D model. The tool is called Kadim. So I don't know, it really makes you think about like if I can generate an image from a text prompt and I can learn that language, because that's a language in which you need to communicate with the computer with a specific language. It's not that it reads your mind, right? It's just like it's not like you type, I don't know, like multifamily limestone Spanish mission, blah, 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 and it just pops out with the image you have in your head. You need to be able to transmit that image to the computer. But once you do that and you decode that, then you'll be able to have a 3D model of it, which is quite crazy just to think about it.
Yeah, quite fascinating. When we, 1970s, before the computers, computers were a plaything. They were just coming out. In the about 80s, we started, using for business application. It was still slow. Only big companies could afford it, and it was just more of a show. And then, as obviously that it made a huge jump, and everybody is obviously using computers now. Same thing with cloud. The cloud was a plaything, right? I mean, I have a server in my closet. What are you kidding me? But I'll play around with the cloud and see this and that, and then that innovation kind of swept us the heck out, especially when it broke us over the rocks with the COVID thing. And then I think that machine learning and some of the AI aids to current professions, that's kind of a next thing. I think also not crypto per se, but the network that it's building, distributed computing. I think that's the next thing. So all those innovations are plaything. They're becoming more serious now, but it's the next frontier. And so Mercedes' advice and our advice as an IT company to you, dear listeners, is innovation on the agenda. Put it on the agenda, and then don't be stressing over all these choices. Focus on the softer side of tech. Once pick something and start picking at it, go fast at it, and from there you would have consistency and diligence in implementing. Make sure the technology is implemented and actually producing the outcomes you were gaining, and then on to the next. So that's kind of our show. Any last piece of advice for our listeners, Mercedes?
Be happy.
I like
No,
that.
I'm kidding. No, it is that. No, I think it's a really great time to be in our industry. People tend to get overwhelmed about how fast things are moving. But everybody who's in our industry right now is in a very good position to change things for the better. So, like, I would embrace it. If I were you, I would embrace it.
Gotcha. Can you tell our listeners how to find you if they wanted to check out what your company offers, or maybe talk to you, ask you questions?
Yeah, for sure. So you can reach me out. My name is Mercedes, and I'm pretty much everywhere at Carriquiry. If you have a link to post on the podcast,
We'll do it.
I will share the link. And our website is www.slantis.com. Slantis is SLANTIS.
Awesome. Well, thank you very much for taking the time to join us. We really appreciate it. Boris, thank you as well. If you guys are looking out there and you finding yourself struggling with your IT, that's no bueno, okay? That will just set you off onto all kinds of wrong directions, because if your foundation isn't solid, how could you innovate? How could you innovate when your server constantly fails, when your users are not being set up, when you can't get a phone call back from your IT company? That's just a little plug for Arc IT, okay? So you guys need help, get arcit.com. We're here for you. And I hope you guys have a wonderful day. Thank you very much for listening, watching, and see you next time. Thank you.
Thank you. It was great.
Thank you, everyone. Bye.